I have a bunch of items here with me for show and tell. All right, let's see. So I'm doing this because I have a book coming out, and so we do this. And I think I have some questions, but I don't know how this is gonna go. I think I act like this is a surprise, like this is like spontaneous. This is Taylor surprise face, but I don't think I'm ever all that prepared anymore. I used to have like a real agenda. I used to do this once a week. Wild to contemplate. So, okay. Well, so Girl Dinner is the book that's coming out. It's the book I'm going on tour for. I'm going to be on tour in the US from October 21st, October 21st, starting in LA, and ending in Seattle. All those events are like everywhere. They're on my website, olivieblake.com, and all of my social media. And then in November, I don't remember the exact dates because I only have my flights in my head, and that's not useful information for you. But I'll be on tour in the UK like the 2nd or 3rd week of November. Again, you can find it on my website. Please find it on my website. I look forward to seeing you. Oh, also, look what I've got. So I did want to show you that these are the US version, the UK version. Here are the US sprayed edges. The US version underneath has, I don't know if you can actually see it. There's a fork with pasta on it, and it's got a lovely demure frame around it because we know what we're about. And that's the spine. And the UK version, pink letters, and bloody fork. Bloody Victorian fork, I would argue. Historians don't come for me on that. I also brought, someone asked me why the UK versions looked thicker, or they asked me why the UK versions were thicker than the US versions of the Atlas series in a way that implied that the UK version maybe had like more words. I considered responding like, yeah, there's just more story in the UK versions. But I guess as a useful, so this is the US Atlas complex. And this is the UK Atlas complex. It is thicker because it is shorter. And it's very funny to me that I am explaining this. But here you go. Here is your visual aid. The same story is contained in both books. Sorry if I owe you an apology. That was just really amusing to me. And then also out in paperback is January's my short story collection. I'm really proud of this book. I love this book. Here it is. Here's the UK version. The UK version is garnet in celebration of January's, whereas the US version is blue because of winter. The UK version also has an additional short story in it. It also has pins and needles. I believe all the paperback versions have pins and needles. Which means that the UK version contains the entirety of Fairy Tales of the Macabre, which is the self-published fairy tale collection that I came out with, my very first one. The very first thing I self-published in 2016. Actually, I think that Alpha with Locumra might have been the first thing I self-published. I'm not confident. Ignore me. But I like to... I find self-promotion really uncomfortable, so I'm not going to look at you while I do this. I do think that if you were trying to buy a Christmas gift for someone, perhaps someone you don't know very well or who does like short form, I think January's would be a good gift. But, you know, that's up to you, and I really don't want to pressure you in either direction. I just really like short form. I really like short stories. I'm a big fan of them. I love collections. I love anthologies, so... It's something that when I was writing fan fiction, everyone would like bother me about how Amortentia was a collection of, in case you're coming here out of context, I no longer engage with the source material of Harry Potter, but I used to write Harry Potter fan fiction. It's weird that I now have to explain this. I assume that most people watching this like know this. I'm not confident why you're here otherwise, but Amortentia was my collection of short stories, and a lot of people were always like, why don't you, because that's not really a thing in fan fiction. Usually one-shots are posted on their own, but to me, I always thought of them as part of a collection, that they were all part of a larger story about like love. They all fit into these sort of romantic conceptions, and everyone would bug me about why I didn't publish them all in one collection, and the answer is I love collections. The end. I think that a couple of people have asked me about things that are not available anymore and why they're not available anymore and will they be available? Yes. So any future plans to traditionally publish Lively Tangle Devices? No. Actually, my editor tried to publish it. For some reason, she read it. I don't know how she read it. I must have sent it, via my agent, must have sent it to her at some point when she acquired Masters of Death and, what's that other book I wrote? Yes, One for My Enemy. But I never intended to traditionally publish Lovely Tangled Vices. The problem with Lovely Tangled Vices as a story, there's a couple of problems. One, the witch sorority concept. I had a feeling I could use a sorority in a stronger way. Initially, when I was still self-publishing, I was going to do a prequel to focus on the actual like witch sorority. But then I wrote Girl Dinner, which is about a cannibal sorority. And so that was my, I don't want to do like a bunch of sorority media. Although someone, Tracy Dion, sorry for this flex, but Tracy Dion sent me a post about a bunch of people talking about having lady vampires and their girl dinner being like men to keep the streets safe. And when she sent it to me, she was like, this seems like something you'd write. And I realized I have already written that. I wrote, it's in La Petite Mort, which someone, So someone referred to recently La Petite Mort as a self-published book, but it is not self-published. It is actually published by a small press, Which Way Publishing. So that is, I think people were wondering why I have not traditionally published that. It is published by a publisher. Anyway, that's about the Casket Girls as a sort of coven/vampire sorority. And I was like, do I maybe have an obsession with the intersection of femininity, culture, and violence? Like, maybe so, maybe so. Okay, so the first problem with Lovely Tangled Vices, I thought I could use the sorority aspect in a better way. The other problem with it, when I started writing it, it got kind of mixed reviews from the only person who was reading it. So Lovely Tangled Vices was also initially written in serialized form for Which Way magazine. So I was writing one chapter at a time. And so the only person I was getting any feedback from was my editor, Tanya, who is great and has always been so supportive of me. But she was not a big fan of one of the characters. And so it was really hard for me to continue writing this story knowing that the one person who was giving me feedback did not like the character as I had written her. And, you know, she is quite an unlikable character depending on how you look at it. Ariadne is who we're talking about. I think it makes sense that Aurora, I also think they had different names at the time. I can't remember anymore. I think it makes sense that like Aurora was the kind of character who was more en vogue. She was a little bit more of a girl boss. Whereas Ariadne was very like messy and the things she wanted them so badly and so passionately in a way that she could not be chill about. And, you know, I loved her. But anyway, as a result, I feel like the story never got to a place where I really did what I wanted to do with it. And I had a vision in my head of like maybe doing a stronger version of that story someday. You know, not that it would be the same story over, but like kind of a second try at those like relationship dynamics and the sisterhood and all that stuff. But I didn't do it. So yeah, I will be honest with you and say that my editor did very much offer me money to publish this book. And I said no. Because at this point in my writing career, I'm too far down the line to do any more backlist stuff. Like, we're only moving forward from this point on. Someone else I think was upset about the fact that the working title for what was Stargazing is Necrophilia, I have changed it to After Party. I can sort of envision sometimes when I am thinking about a book as a product, as like an art product, it helps to have something that kind of creates a visual for the cover in my head. It kind of gives me a sense of what the final thing is going to look like, the whole aesthetic of like the product in the end. And that kind of helps me focus the writing process. So I have said many times, I love the title Stargazing is Necrophilia, and my publisher has fought me on that. Like right from the start, they were like, we're not going to publish something with the word necrophilia in it because it implies like fucking the dead, which is like, it has multiple meanings. That's not its exclusive meaning. And so I was frustrated at first. But the point of the title, Stargazing is Necrophilia, was to create this like already in the title feeling of melancholy. Because when I started writing this story, I was dealing with the feelings of disappointment in myself and being in my late 20s and very, very disillusioned and feeling like, what if I never make it? And, you know, it's very much the, I used to be a prodigy and now I'm almost 30, right? But I already wrote Gifted and Talented. And so the concept of disappointment, Stargazing is Necrophilia, is about disappointment. It's about like that title and that original concept is about the things you thought they would be not being what you thought. And so it's about disillusionment. That was the original concept of the book. But I'm not in that place in my life right now. Right now I want to write something slightly different, and what the story is shaping up to be actually has basically none of the old material in it. I might reuse some things, but I've decided that it's just easier to start from scratch. And so the same like characters are there, the same relationship dynamics are there, but it's a very different book. And so I've given it a different working title. It's not that someone was going to make me change that title anyway, but I am changing it in my head, not because someone is making me, but because this is not the same book. Like what's coming out of me now, I don't think I could write Alone with You in the Ether now at this stage of my life. And so while it's an Alone with You in the Ether-esque book, in that it's very, very interior and it's predominantly a romance and it definitely has the same like tones, like brush strokes as Alone with You in the Ether, I'm not the same person. I'm not capable of writing the same book. So I'm calling it After Party, as in like, it still has a melancholy sense to it. It's still kind of about uncertainty when it comes to life and where your life is going, and specifically the uncertainty of an artist's life or a creative life, because you don't ever actually know, you don't follow it, you know, the same path as everybody else, and that can feel sort of strange. And this sort of undressing of what is good art, it's just a different book. And I like the idea of After Party as referencing like all the feelings that come after you've made it. It's not really about that either. The three characters that are the main characters in the book, which are the same characters they were before, Mari, Niam, and Adam, it delves into them more deeply, I think, than it did before. And they're all in various stages of their career, and they all have various things that they want from life. Mari specifically is very different. Anyway, all of this to say, someone was disappointed in the title change, which I understand, but that is my decision. And it's also probably not the final title. It's just what I work with to kind of direct the narrative, to get to have the like, to meditate on a concept. And the concept is what happens after everybody has left the party, what happens after everyone's gone home. Who are you? Can you be alone with yourself after everyone's gone home? Okay, the second question, which is sort of related, is could you give us a hint as to whether there will be another young adult novel soon? Or would we have to wait a long time to see another one like My Mechanical Romance and 12th Night? I have no intention of writing another young adult novel. To be totally honest with you, I only had the one idea. I only had My Mechanical Romance as the thing I wanted to write. And then because that was the first book of mine to be traditionally published and it's what got my agent, I kind of had to write a second one. And so I wrote 12th Night. But I really had to like push. I had to dig in deep to find the concept for 12th Night. I had told my editor that I have an idea if I ever had to write a third book. I don't know what the circumstances would be where I would have to, but the concept that I have, I'm not even sure it would hit with the YA market, because it's kind of like that show, that Ryan Murphy show that was about a high school election, but they approached it like it was a real election. I had the idea of two characters like essentially fake dating because they're so type A that they really want to win those like class superlative things. Like they really want to win something and they decide to team up so they'll win class couple or like cutest couple or something, but they're both like so intense. Like they're both just doing extracurriculars to add it to their resumes, and they're not actually like they were both going to be insane, you know? And so it's the kind of thing that I could do in an adult book. Like it would basically be like Meredith and then a boy version of Meredith. And I'm just not sure that would work for a young adult concept. But if for whatever reason I really had to, I would write that. And it's also possible that as my son is older, I might feel the need to read something because like I read what he's reading too. I don't have any picture book ideas. I really think that picture books, the success of a picture book totally hinges on whether the author is a good poet. Like the important thing about a picture book is strong, like syncopation. The poetry has to be good. It has to like be really easy to read aloud and comfortable, and the rhythm has to be there. The Julia Donaldson books are really good because she's a really good poet and she changes her rhyme scheme a lot, and it's great. It's an art that I cannot achieve. But you know, I think it's possible. I know some of my friends who have slightly older kids have thought about doing middle grade books, and I could see that happening to me. That's just like, well, I have to keep reading these things, and so maybe I would have an idea in this vein. But at this moment, I have no plans to write any more young adult novels. To be honest, the market's just not really there for it. And I'm a little bit more interested in other concepts right now. I always say that when I'm writing for adults, I make that decision kind of based on theme. So like, there's Dreamland that's coming out next year that's basically a gothic, and it also kind of has to do with like whiteness and being white passing, and what does that mean, and being biracial, and what things are kind of a compromise of your identity, just as a fun like sub theme. And then the book after that, I hope, I'm not totally sure of the order, would be Euphoria, which is kind of a satirical Hunger Games concept. It's a dystopia, but it's also about like, what are we doing when we consume things? What are we doing? What are we doing to ourselves? Really what it is a cry for help, but it has some strong comedic elements like Girl Dinner. And then there's the book After Party, formerly Stargazing is Necrophilia, which is again about that feeling of uncertainty and what comes next, and how do you know, in a world of uncertainty, how do you live? The question I'm always asking is like, how do we live? I'm very existential. So so I don't have anything YA. I don't have any coming of age concepts right now, but maybe I would. This is a really long way of saying no. Sorry. Okay, any advice for feeling shitty about a first draft of your writing? I know the whole idea of the first draft is to make the work exist and that it's not supposed to feel like something straight off the shelf, but any tips you have for maximizing the wilderness that is the first draft when everything is malleable? You know, my son has some artistic anxiety. He'll draw something and I'll see him freeze up when he realizes that he doesn't have the capacity to draw the thing he wants to draw. Like it takes a lot of work and a lot of practice with the motor skills the way that they are for him to be able to draw what he has in his mind. And so one of the things that I've been practicing with him is I draw too, but what I don't allow myself to do is start over. So I'll draw, and obviously I'm not a good artist. I'm really not. Those of you who've asked me to draw things in your books, like that's a mistake, and I warned you it was a mistake, so just know that I told you so. So obviously I'll make a mistake and then I'll try to fix it, or I'll try to turn it into something. I'll turn the drawing into something else because I know he's watching me, and I know he'll ask me like, well, why are you doing this now? Or what? And I'll say, well, this thing went wrong, but that's okay. It was just part of the artistic process. It was just part of becoming what it was eventually becoming. And I think, to me, I like that feeling, not just of the art doesn't have to be perfect, because that's not an actionable feeling, right? Like telling yourself that it doesn't have to be perfect doesn't actually make you feel better. I think you have to focus on the thing that's exciting and the thing that's fun, and what's fun about creativity and doing something that is at its heart like just art. is what can I turn this into? What is this already turning into that might feel more right? What could I do here that would kind of awaken that feeling in me that I'm creating something that's new and novel and exciting. Drafting is difficult, but it's a specific kind of difficult where it's like I can't necessarily see where this is going, or it's not shaping up to be what I thought it was going to be. And I think there's a way to embrace that. There's a way to instead of being discouraged by that feeling, kind of channel the energy into moving forward. What is working? What does feel good, or what does feel right? And what would, how can I emphasize that part as the story is taking shape? What can I do that feels exciting? Which is not to say that it should feel easy. It just means that there's a version of what you're writing where you focus on the exciting part. And, I'm glad that I get to kind of make artistic mistakes in front of my son so that he can watch me deal with them, because I can tell he's going to be the kind of person who's going to be really hard on himself if he has like a real palpable fear of failure and a real perfectionism, which is crazy because like he's 4 and it's not going to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But then to also celebrate when you pivot in a way that works, when you do something that does work. Another thing I use a lot is so ridiculous, is the principle of dog training, where I think Courtney Milan wrote about this recently, but I think about it a lot, where when you're training a dog, dogs learn best from positive reinforcement. You can't really punish a dog. Like, all you do is scare them, right? So the only thing you can do to teach them is to celebrate what they're doing right. And so if a dog cannot do something right at least 85% of the time, they will just lose interest or become discouraged or whatever, right? You can't praise things they're doing wrong. So if they're not getting it right 85% of the time, then you have to change the activity so that it's something they can do that many times correctly. And so I think I'm talking about this in terms of dog training my son, but you can also sort of dog train yourself. I think you can lower the bar to just like, what would feel good? What will make me feel like I've done what I need to do for this story, that is also something achievable? What is, what can I write? What scene can I do? What tone can I express? Where I can allow myself to accept that I'm doing it. I'm writing this book. It's moving along. Like I can enjoy that forward motion even if it isn't exactly right. Because most of the time I find that I think the book is bad most of the time. Most of the time, I sense that it's bad. And then when I finish and I look back at what's been done, I see it in a different way. I see it in the sense of I can fix this, or the things that are wrong are not the errors that I made are not the predominant aspect of this book. Actually, the book as a whole is pretty good. The ideas are all there. And what I didn't get right is something that I can absolutely fix. And now I will work on fixing it. And that's a totally different energy. And so yeah, that's kind of how I do it. But it is very normal to suspect that something is bad. Just know that you're probably wrong. Or like that it might be bad if that's where the book ended, right? If you never got to fix anything about it, yeah, it's probably bad. But you do get to fix it, and it's not its whole shape yet. I mean, if you cut yourself off halfway through drawing something, of course it wouldn't look right. I'm using a lot of metaphors, really throwing around some metaphors here, but hopefully that makes sense to you. I'm sure I'm going to be talking about Girl Dinner a lot, going to be hitting the road to rant about things. It's probably best that I calm down about a lot of things before I start tour, but it's also probably unlikely. Girl Dinner is available soon. I don't know when I'm going to edit this, but it is available wherever you buy books. I hope you enjoy it. It's one of those books where I feel like I am responding to a specific moment in time, but I think most authors are doing that. I think works that turn out to be timeless are probably written with a pretty specific point in mind. But yeah, I think the thing I always want personally when I'm reading, I always want to be a different person at the end of the book. I want to have thought about something I've never thought about before. I want someone to have finally put words to something that I've been trying to say for a long time. And I hope this book does something like that for you. I hope it leaves you with some questions or just continues a conversation for you. I don't think it's like some new incredible thing you've never thought about before, but I do hope it helps shape some of the way that you engage with the world. And I hope you want to talk about it, for better or worse. Not with me. You can talk about it with me if you come on tour, but you know, you gotta come. But yeah, I hope it's fun. I hope that anyone reading it for a book club enjoys it. I hope it gives you a good theme for the evening's festivities. And yeah, and I'm once again just really lucky. I mean, sometimes I think about where these videos started, and you can really see the person who was writing Stargazing is Necrophilia then versus the person who is doing that sort of interior work, excavating the inner space now. I'm just very lucky, and I'm very grateful, and thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for reading the books. Thank you for listening to me talk for whatever reason. Okay, I'm back for more show and tell. First of all, this is the very cool Tragic Girls and Girl Dinner collaboration, which is really, really cool. I just wanted you to see it, enjoy it. It's perfect. These are meat scrunchies, so that's obviously very exciting and wonderful and appropriate. I also forgot to mention that I have two other things coming out. So my story, The Audit from January's, was also included in the Best New American Sci-Fi and Fantasy. All the Best New American copies come out on October 21st, the same day as Girl Dinner. So if you also want to enjoy the best New American stories, sci-fi and fantasy specifically, because that's the volume that I'm in. It was edited by Nadia Corafor and John Joseph Adams. So yes, that's available October 21st. I'm very, very proud and honored to be included in it. Sometimes I question whether I really belong to this genre. A lot of the criticism about my work is that it's not speculative enough. So it was very exciting and validating to be included in this collection, and I'm very, very grateful. Also, I have coming out an Amazon short story, but of course, as you're familiar with me, it's not that short. It's part of the Time Traveler's Passport. So the collection includes stories by John Scalzi, R.F. Kuang, Pang Shepard, Kayleigh Bradley, me, and P. Jelly Clark. So it's an incredible, incredible collection. My story is called All Manner of Things Shall Be. It is basically like, the best way to describe it is What We Do in the Shadows meets Groundhog's Day. It's tonally more in the Masters of Death realm. It is literally about vampires who like drive Ubers and just generally live in Santa Monica. There's the PTA president that's constantly trying to ban one of the other people. There is a character named Princess Orduha, who is an actual historical figure that is constantly trying to kill Ferdinand Magellan. So, for obvious reasons. Anyway, it's intended to be sort of silly and funny, so I hope you enjoy it. That is coming out November 3rd. And if you have Amazon Prime or Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. So it's included in the same type of program as like, the Alex E. Harrow 6 Deaths of the Saint, that is like the story I think of when I think of the Amazon short stories. So yes, those things are also coming out, and I'm just adding that on because I am not confident in my ability to film another video before those things come out. So those things will also be available to you. I hope you enjoy them. All Manner of Things Shall Be also has an audiobook. And actually, The Audit, which is in the Best New American Sci-Fi and Fantasy. I keep repeating this because it's like the best. The Audit and All Manner of Things Shall Be are both narrated by David Monteith, who was the voice of Tristan, and he's done basically anytime I need someone to properly deliver comedy, I ask David Monteith to do it. So I'm really excited. It was so funny and enjoyable for me. I hope you enjoy it too. And this has been me. Not writing, just talking about writing all the time. Also, this is my very punk rock shirt for Gil and the Kills. It's a pretty sick business. This, the most punk rock I can possibly be is a band t-shirt that is actually referencing a book, which is Hot Wax by ML Rio. Enjoy. This has been me, Olivie Blake, not writing, and I'll see you next time.